Hi everybody, this is a review video of the second graders, Great Expectation. So here at the same time, he hugged his shuddering body in both his arms, clasping himself as if to hold himself together and limped together the low church wall. So the guy, it's cold outside, so he hugged himself, his shuddering body. Shuddering means his shaking body. So he was holding his shaking body in both his arms and clasping himself. Also, clasp means shuddering and hugging, as if to hold himself together, and limped toward to low church wall. You guys remember? He has his iron on his leg. One side is leg, right? There's an iron in his one side of the leg. So he's limping. Okay, he's not walking in a normal way, right? He's limping to a low church wall, and as I saw him go, picking his way among the nettles and among the brambles that bound the green mound, he looked in my young eyes as if he were eluding the hands of the dead people. So he was walking in the plant. Nettles and brambles are all the plants that has thorns, right? So he was walking by these nettles and brambles. No, this is a marsh area. There's much nettles and bramble, many plants, and there's a mound bound that green mound. Mound is a ground area which comes like hump, right? This is a marsh and hump area. He's walking around this area, and he looked in my own young eyes as if he were eluding the hands of the dead people. So it seems that he was eluding, he was running away. So there is this hand of dead people. Try to catch him. No, but these hands are not real, right? The hands of the dead people. This is an imaginary hand from Pip's point of view, and it seems that the guy is trying to running away from this imaginary hand of dead people, stretching up cautiously out of their graves. This area into the marsh and church area, there are many like tombstones, many graves, right? There are many graves. So from these graves, many hands of dead people came out and tried to hold this guy. He was trying to running away from this hand. And to get a twist upon his ankle and pull him in. So, it seems that these hands try to catch the ankle of this guy and pull him into the grave, pull him into the ground. Okay? So when he came to the low church wall, he got over it. So at the end of the church, there is a fence, and the fence is quite a low, not very high, low wall. So the person, he like went over, walked and went over outside the churchyard, okay, and got over it like a man whose legs were numb and stiff. So it seems that he doesn't feel anything. He feels numb. He doesn't feel anything at his foot, and it feels quite stiff. His feet is very hard because it's cold outside. And then turned around to look for me. It seems that the guy tried to turn around and looking for me. And when I saw him turning, I set my face forward home and made the best use of my leg. And Pip, he discovered the guy was trying to turn around and try to look for Pip. So, Pip set his face toward the home. He turned to home and he ran fast. Made the best use of my leg. He ran fast to his house. But presently I looked over my shoulder while he was running toward home. He turned around, tried to look over his shoulder, looking for the guy, and saw him going over again toward the river, still hugging himself in both arms. The guy was walking toward the river and hugging himself in both arms and picking his way with his sour feet among the great stone dropped into the marshes here and there. So it seems that over the marsh there is a bridge, stone bridge, here and there, just in case there comes too much water in it, water in the marsh area. Still, you want to cross the marsh, and people like made a stone bridge, so you can like stepping stone here. Okay, so there is this stones and uh, stones and for stepping places when the rains were heavy. So when, in case the rain was heavy and the tide was in, so when there is a lot of water, you need a stepping stone to cross this area. So people put a stone, and the guy was jumping over to these stones to running away, go away. Okay, so the marshes were just a long black horizontal line. So marsh looked like a black horizontal line. It means that Pip came far away from the marsh area. Marsh is located far from Pip. As I stopped to look after him, and the river was just another horizontal line. So the marsh and the river all look like a line. All river are all the line. Not nearly so broad, nor yet so black. So it doesn't really very broad and doesn't look really black. And the sky was just a row of long, angry red line and dense black. So the sky looked quite angry, angry red line and dense black color. Lines intermixed. So the sky looked like red and black mixed together, which is not very pleasant color, right? On the edge of the river, I could faintly make out the only two black things in the prospect that seemed to stand upright. So on the edge of the river, far from home, in the far away, in the far river, Pip could only see two black things standing upright. One of these was a beacon by which the sailor steered. So one black object that Pip can see is the beacon. Beacon is a fire, right? So the sailors, sailors, when they try to sail, when they try to change the direction in the ocean, they look at the beacon and see the direction, and they know where to go, right? Like an unhooped cask upon a pole. So the beacon looked like unhooped cask. So this is a cask, right? A barrel. Cask and barrel. And upon a pole, there is a pole down below the beacon. And this is barrel. And unhooped cask. This is a hoop. Okay. So do you know like hula hoop, right? This is a hoop. So this barrel has hoop side, but it seems that because this barrel is old, the hoop is gone. Okay, there's many hoops. So maybe being too old, some of this hoop is gone. So that's why it's called a unhooped cask upon a pole. An ugly thing when you are near it. So when you go near this beacon and look at it, it looked quite ugly. Okay. And the other gibbet. The other one is a gibbet. Okay. Gibbet is a device. that you kill people, you hang people. Right? So the other standing upright is the gibbet. And with some chains hanging to it, which had once held a pirate. So there is a chain. I guess there is this chain in the gibbet. And you used to hang pirate with this chain in the gibbet. So the man was limping on toward this ladder. So ladder refers to gibbet. So it seems that the guy was walking toward this. Walking toward this gibbet. Okay, as if he were the pirate, as if himself was a pirate come to life. Once he was dead, he was executed with this gibbet. And he came alive and come down again. Now he's done his business here in this world. Now it seems that he comes down and going back to the hook himself up again. So it seems that this guy is going to hook himself up again in the gibbet. It gave me a terrible turn when I thought so. So when Pip think about this thing, it gave him really terrible feeling, terrible turn. So I saw the cattle lifting their heads to gaze after him. So it seems that since there is a marsh, there is a cattle, a cow, maybe. A cow was trying to lifting his head to look at the guy, and I wonder whether they thought so too. I wonder whether the cattle was having the same opinion with me too about this guy. And I look all around for a horrible young man. You know, this guy, he mentioned something about even more horrible young man behind, hiding. So even though this young man is an imaginary person, Pip seems to believe that this young man existed. So he looked for this horrible young man and could see no sign of him. And he couldn't find nobody. And now I was frightened again and ran home without stopping. So he felt suddenly afraid, so he ran toward home fast. And here, chapter 2, my sister, Mrs. Joe Gargery, was more than 20 years older than I and had established a great reputation with herself and the neighbor because she had brought me up by hand. So Pip used to live with her sister, Mrs. Joe Gargery, 20 years older. 20 years older than Pip, and she was quite famous. She has a reputation in the neighborhood because she was raising up Pip by hand. So what it means is that having at the time to find out for myself what the expression meant and knowing her to have a hard and heavy hand, so Mrs. Joe Gargery, she has a hard and heavy hand, and to be much in the habit of laying upon her husband as well as upon me, so laying her hand laying her hand upon her husband as well as upon Pip, it means she used to hit her husband. She used to hit Pip. So, and she has a heavy and hard hand. So I suppose that Joe Gargery and I were both brought up by hand. So it means that bringing up by hand means she used to hit him, hit Pip and husband, and bringing up Pip with her hand. Oftentimes hit him. She was not a good-looking woman, my sister. So, if Pip is saying the sister, Mrs. Joe, is not really a good-looking woman, and I had a general impression that she must have made Joe Gargery marry her by hand. She is so forcing and so aggressive, and Pip thought that maybe my sister forced Mr. Joe marry her by hand. Okay? So Joe was a fair man. On the other hand, unlike her sister, Joe was a fair man, good guy, good man, with the curls of flaxen hair. So it has a smooth hair, smooth curly hair, Mr. Joe, on each side of his smooth face, and with eyes of such a very undecided blue that they seem to have somehow got mixed with their own white. So eyes are blue and mixed with the white, and he was a mild, good-natured, sweet-tempered, easygoing, foolish dear fellow. So basically, he's a good person, an easy guy, a good person, good nature, a sort of a Hercules in strength. So Mr. Joe was really strong guy, but with a good heart, tender heart, and also in weakness. So being a strong man, being a strong, simple man is a strength at the same time. It's a weakness for Mr. Joe. And my sister, Mrs. Joe, with black hair and eyes, had such a prevailing redness of skin that I sometimes used to wonder whether it was possible she washed herself with a nutmeg grater instead of soap. So Mrs. Joe Gargery has black hair and her skin is so red. So nutmeg grater is a device that you grind nut with. Okay, so it's a tool that you can grind a nut with your tool. You're grinding, and the nut, the color of nut is quite red. So this powder, it grained, it leaves a lot of red powder. So Mrs. Joe's skin is so red, so people believe that sometimes my sister wash wash her face with a nutmeg grater, not with a soap. And she was a tall and bony. Bone is a bone, right? Bone. So it means that she is skinny person, and almost always wore a coarse apron. So Mrs. Joe Gargery always wears a coarse apron and fastened over her figure behind with two loops. So this is an apron, right? Apron, and you have a loop for your right arm and loop for your left arm. Okay. And having a square, impregnable bib. Not only just apron, she also had a bib in front of her. No? Quite similar, like apron. Right? She carries in front of her. And this bib is impregnable, which means that this is very hard. No one can get in. Okay? And she has a lot of pins and needles on it. So there's a pocket in the bib, and she has a lot of pins, a lot of needles. Okay, she's doing a lot of work because her husband is not making a lot of money. So she made it a powerful merit in herself. So she used to uh, boast of, or brag of, that I'm the one who is working all the time. I'm the one who is making money. So she's like really showing off that she is working hard and taking care of the family, making a lot of money. And and a strong reproach. So she is reproach, blame. She blamed Mr. Joe. You're not making a lot of money. That's why I work all the time. She is reproaching against Mr. Joe, wearing this blip and apron all the time, and that she wore this apron so much. She has to wear this apron all the time to work, and she used to brag off about her working all the time. Though I really see no reason why she should have worn it all, or why, if she did wear it all, she should not have taken off. But Pip doesn't understand. Pip doesn't understand why she has to wear it all the time. And Pip also doesn't understand. Sometimes she can take it off, but she seems never take it off. And Pip didn't understand why. and every day of our life. No? And Joe's forge adjoined our house. So Mr. Joe is a blacksmith, and the forge is the place, warehouse that Mr. Joe is working, and it's adjoined our house. It's connected. So Mr. Joe's workstation, forge. Mr. Joe's workstation and the house is connected with each other, which was a wooden house. They have a wooden house, as many of the dwelling in our country, were most of them at the time. So most of the house were made of wood at the time. When I ran home from the churchyard, the forge was shut up. So when Pip ran his house, the forge was shut down, and Joe was sitting alone in the kitchen. And Joe and I being fellow sufferers and having confidence as such, Joe imparted a confidence to me. So Joe gave. No, Mr. Joe and Pip are fellow sufferers. They suffer from Mrs. Joe Gargery. Okay? So it seems that Mr. Joe gave a confidence to me. So Mr. Joe seems to believe Pip so much. So the moment I raised the latch of the door and peeped inside him, opposite to it, sitting in the chimney corner. So he tried to open the door. Pete tried to open the door of the house and looked inside. And Mr. Joe was sitting in the chimney corner in the kitchen. Okay? So we'll finish it here and we'll continue our lesson next time. Okay? Good job, everybody. Thank you. So thank you for listening. Bye.